and rebuild. Let's get into the real facts and chill. Go ahead and tell them where we at. Destroy and rebuild. From your average show, we break down multiple ways to grow. Destroy and rebuild. Now let the ancestors speak. This African state of mind is not complete. Destroy and rebuild. No longer taking secondary. It's freedom by all means necessary. Destroy and rebuild. 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 We broadcast live and direct. Chills put the groundwork in full effect. Die circumstances demand your respect. It's time to advance, something more than a check. I got my eyes open wide enough to see the threat. Liberation is promised, the fight I won't forget. So grab your pen and pad, be sure to take notes at this moment in time. This information is coming that'll free your mind.
Tonight we have a special guest here in the virtual studio. We have educator, author, psychologist, political scientist, and Pan-Africanist, Dr. Umar Johnson. My brother, how are you tonight?
Peace and love, good brothers. How's it going?
Oh, it's great. It's great to have you here.
Yes, sir.
All right.
The honor is mine.
Oh. For those who may not be familiar with your work, tell them a little bit about who you are and what it is you do.
Sure. I'm Dr. Umar Johnson. I'm a doctor of clinical psychology, which means I work with children who are diagnosed with so-called conditions like ADHD, conduct disorder. I do therapy. I work with families as a clinician, school psychologist. I specialize in special education. I evaluate children for special ed. That's how I make a living. I provide that service for charter and public schools, parents and lawyers across the country, particularly here in the state of Pennsylvania. So special ed is what I do. I decide who's in, who comes out, who stays in. And as you all know, the premise of my work is education and ADHD are used as weapons of mass destruction against black boys. And to that end, my very first book, finally, after 38 years of waiting and procrastinating, my first book, Psychoacademic Holocaust, Special Education and ADHD Wars Against Black Boys, will be in my hand from the printer this weekend. So everyone who pre-ordered the book, I want to thank you all for doing so. I had a lot of pre-orders, and they'll be going out in the mail this weekend, so I thank everyone for that. Also a Pan-Africanist, blood relative of Frederick Douglass, a political scientist, and former school administrator.
And people can get the at least select the book from drumarjohnson.com.
Yes, sir. The book can be pre-ordered at drumarjohnson.com. At this stage of the game is really still a pre-order to an extent, but by the time they make their order, the book should be in my hand. So anyone who makes the order from today forward should be able, will definitely, get their book within a couple of days. So go to the website. That's one of the ways you can help me build this school that I'm trying to build for our children. Of course, some of those coins go to keep a roof over my head and food in my daughter's mouths, but all of the excess goes towards the school. Very, very important that folks support me, because unlike a lot of other lecturers, I'm actually trying to make a difference, not just run my mouth.
No doubt about it. And also you were also on both Hidden Colors. How do you feel about the success of the second Hidden Colors as well as the first?
Well, I think it was a blessing. I think it was a blessing for the ancestors. I think it was a blessing for our cultural heritage. It was a blessing for our history. At this point in time in our existence right now, I think it's very critical that we try to raise the consciousness of our people. Historical consciousness obviously is one aspect of consciousness for people who don't have any idea of who we are and what we've been. I think documentaries such as Hidden Colors are very, very profound, very important for folks towards understanding our culture and raising our historical consciousness. But now we also have to raise the economic consciousness of black people. We have to raise the political consciousness of black people. We have to raise the military consciousness of black people. And by that, I mean black people have to be made aware so that they can see the extent to which what's being done against us is actually a military campaign. My book, Psychoacademic Holocaust, is going to try to raise educational and psychological consciousness of black people so they can understand that what's taking place against our young people is not an accident. It has nothing to do with a lack of money. It has nothing to do with hip-hop. It has nothing to do with sagging pants, weed smoking, single-parent homes. That's what's taking place against our young men is the result of a deliberate design.
May I ask you, Dr. Umar, did you, if you had the chance, did you check out the movie Django?
Yes,
whatever.
I did. Yes.
What were your thoughts on that movie, sir?
Well, Django, for me, basically just seemed to be a rendition of an earlier movie called Drum. You might be familiar with that, which was also a slave-time blaxploitation flick. I mean, Django, just like 90% of all the other movies that come out of Hollywood, always,
yes, sir.
No matter how bad the brother might be, Django, just like all the other movies, always has a white person saving the day for a black person.
Thank you.
In Django, you saw a white guy get killed, but if it wasn't for that white guy, then Jamie Foxx would have never found his wife. And of course, there was racist allegory and imagery all through the film. I mean, I wasn't impressed with it one way or the other. It's just the same old thing. Every movie where black people are doing something to help themselves or their family, there's always a white person who's escorting us to success.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Now, looking at society in a broad sense, observing the stolen African presence here in America, what is the greatest psychological challenge that we are facing right now?
Getting our mind back. When we talk about Africans being stolen from the continent, when we talk about the theft of African resources under the soil, which even goes on today, I don't know if you guys heard, but not too long ago down in South Africa, a group of brothers went on strike because they were being underpaid in the diamond mines. And working in the mines is extremely dangerous, not to mention toxic for one's health. So the brothers went on strike for better working conditions, better pay, better insurance. And what happened was there was a little bit of a tussle that ensued, I believe, and the South Africa police basically shot all the brothers. I think most of them were killed. That's how they dealt with their going on strike. The worst thing that was stolen from us was our mind. It was our mind. More than the people, more than the resources, they took our consciousness. They took our worldview away from us. They took our level of respect. At the end of the day, slavery was dehumanization. It was a dehumanization process. The enslavement of African people, unlike any other slavery, codified us as being inhuman. We're the only slaves in world history, people who were enslaved, in world history, who were considered not to be people. That's very, very important, and it's something that we got to understand because the behavior you see from us today, the way we act and treat ourselves, largely comes from the dehumanizing aspect of that slavery. But to answer the question, the greatest thing that they took was our mindset, our consciousness. The post-traumatic slavery disorder is alive and well. The psychological residuals of oppression and dehumanization is alive and well. And the one thing that I want to be careful about, and I want to make sure everyone is very clear when I say this, you cannot replace conditioning with information. I want to be very clear about that because I'm seeing a lot of African people deal with the post-traumatic slavery disorder by studying their history. You're studying your history because you need to remember that. That's part of finding out who you are. But on top of knowing your history, you will still think, act, and feel like a slave if you don't uncondition the mind. And you don't uncondition the mind with reading. You don't uncondition the mind with lectures. Okay, you can raise the consciousness with that. But to uncondition, you must recondition, which basically means if we want to change the way that African people are thinking, we're going to have to put them through an entire psychological rehabilitation process. That's going to be difficult to do because we don't have any institutions, nor do we control any. So the best way to begin that process of altering that Negro psyche is to build schools, because children naturally listen to the adults. And so if we began with the children, the next generation, by reconditioning their mind, by re-Africanizing them, by teaching them how to behave and how to think, not just piling the mind with information. See, when you study history, you're piling the mind with information. That's important, but all it is knowledge. But the understanding can't come from that. The understanding has to come from changing the way that the person thinks. Only giving them more information to think about is never enough. We have to re-engineer the mind itself.
Yeah, I know many people run with the idea that just learning your history is the only catalyst needed towards helping the black mind. And yeah, I don't agree with that. I think that there's a lot more that goes into it. Indeed, that's
much more. As I always say, we have the greatest history, we have the greatest culture, we have the greatest set of collective ancestors in the world. However, if we didn't have none of that, let's say that we didn't have the greatest ancestors, we didn't have the greatest history. What if we didn't have the greatest spiritual foundation? Would that mean that we are to be nothing because we didn't have that? I'm only raising that point because we got to be careful about saying you should think you're great because you did this 5,000 years ago. You should think you're great because you did this 2,500 years ago. If my self-respect is limited to what I used to be, then if someone is able to make me question, to poke doubt in what I used to be, then that automatically erases the self-confidence that I have. In other words, if I'm a child studying my history in class, and they say, well, we built the pyramids, and then a white person comes along and says, well, actually it wasn't you guys that built the pyramids, and we got information to prove it. Now, obviously, we know that our Africologists will be able to out-debate any Europeans or anyone else because they have truth on their side. We know that. But to an African who's coming into consciousness, they don't necessarily know that. And we know that debates are not won by facts. Debates are won by critical analysis and strategic questioning and raising doubt in the audience. You can win a debate totally on live based on your strategy. So if you poke doubt in the mind of African people about their past, you automatically put on hold. You automatically handcuff them to the possibility that maybe we are not worthy of respect. Maybe I'm not great because people are telling me that everything I've been told about the greatness of my history might not be true. So in order for them to go back feeling great, they're going to have to wait until we win that debate. And that debate is going to take place from now until the end of time because of the lies that are being fabricated about African people. I don't want our children waiting until we win the ultimate philosophical debate before they can start having self-respect today. I am of the position that because I am what I am, and I am that I am, that is enough for me to live as a man and build what is necessary for my people to survive. In other words, and this is not an anti-history perspective, I want to be clear, but I want to make it also clear that Umar Johnson, even if he did not have the benefit of his history, that is not going to stop me from protecting our women. That is not going to stop me from fighting for our children. That is not going to stop me from doing that which I need to do. If we go back to the abolitionist struggle of the 18th and 19th century, the Sojourner Truths and Tubmans and Douglases and Martin Delaney's, we go back to that generation. Many of them did not have the benefit of the knowledge that we got now. They did not have it. But most serious students of history would consider the 1800s, which is the 19th century, the most progressive 100-year period in our history since we left Africa. Since the Ma'afa, the 1800s was the most progressive century for black people anywhere, period. but they didn't have benefit of history. You know why? Because I don't need the benefit of history in order for me to live as a man.
Yes, sir. Dr. Umar, if I may, Brother Chills, were you going to?
No, go ahead, brother.
If I may, one of the things I would like to posit to you would be that a lot of my younger brothers and sisters, especially, unfortunately so, I have to say, in high school, that I run into, we're in February, what is known nationally as, so-called Black History Month. I asked them, what is Black history? What can you tell me about Black history? And one of the first things, again, unfortunately, that I will hear, well, let me not say unfortunately, but to a limited basis, is, as you alluded to, they will speak to the Harriet Tubmans, they will speak to our history within the borders of North America. And it's like, for me, I feel like, okay, your minds are bound to what you're being told is his story within these borders, nothing beyond that, and our history goes further beyond that. So again, it's like, for me, I'm looking at, okay, how do I go about trying to show you some things that you can look into for yourself, research for yourself in terms of our story? What do you feel would be some solutions in terms of that, in terms of breaking what a lot of us think or what we are told, in terms of Black history? Because it seems that is limited when you ask a lot of people, our brothers and sisters out here, they think our history is just limited to, North America. They don't think beyond that. What do you figure would be some solutions for that?
Well, number one, I think that the assassination of Pan-African consciousness is a very real issue within our community, and it's something that has been consistently going on since Marcus Garvey's deportation from this country. Most Black leaders do not have a Pan-African consciousness. They exclusively focus on Black America to the exclusion of Africans around the world, thereby failing to recognize the obvious continuity and similarity of our struggles. Our struggle is not broken up into pieces. There is no Black struggle, Jamaican struggle, Canadian struggle, British struggle, Nigerian struggle. It's not a piecemeal thing. It is a global situation. But we want to take a piece of the pie and leave the rest and say that I'm only worried about this. But if the whole pie is molded, if the whole pie has been baked with some sort of a toxin, then you're going to have to deal with the whole pie. You can't take a piece of the pie out and say y'all can eat the rest. The pie is still going to be unhealthy. We have to deal with the whole. The basic parable of Pan-Africanism is that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And one of my works is to try to get people to stop focusing on the parts. We focus on the part to organize, obviously, but then we have to link the different components into one body. But the reason why, two reasons why there's been such an assault on Pan-African consciousness, a global approach to not only history, but struggle. One is Black leadership. Black leadership does not want us to evolve a Pan-African consciousness because that's going to give them more work to do, and it's going to force them to be a little bit more serious about what they're doing. See, if you have a Pan-African approach to studying your history, if our children are being taught simultaneously about different African cultures from around the world, obviously that's going to imbibe within them a Pan-African consciousness, which is going to dictate that the problems that we face today also be dealt with a Pan-African approach. So for people who are not interested in dealing with our issues on an international scale, they like to limit the study of the history. Because if I can keep them only focusing on history in America, I don't ever have to answer questions about why our struggle is not being internationalized. Everyone else's is, but the Black struggle is not being internationalized. The other reason why you don't get a general approach to Pan-Africanism historically or contemporarily, past or present, the old and the now, is because most black people dealing with that Willie Lynch chip, dealing with that post-traumatic slavery disorder, dealing with that Negro psyche, most black people, because of the inferiority complex, want absolutely nothing to do with Africa. They're trying to forget it. They're not trying to rediscover and reclaim Africa. They are trying to forget it. I regularly have conversations with elitist, bourgeois, college-educated blacks who can't understand why we can't leave Africa alone. That's like saying why you can't stop, why you can't forget about your mother, why you can't forget about your father, because they are so immersed in the European thing, the European concept, that they are so immersed in the pursuit of integration, which is nothing more than an illusion, that they're willing to give up their birthright. Africa is your birthright. They're willing to give up their birthright for an opportunity to be accepted by the white man. So it is the leadership that is cowardly, and then it's also black people who don't want nothing to do with their past.
Preach.
Yeah,
Preach.
yeah.
That's all I got to say, brother. Preach.
And one of the things I think that really it kind of encapsulates everyone is that not only do many of us not have a vision of our history in a I guess functional way, but we also don't have a real vision of our future. So we don't have any sort of goal set for us as well. I would think that...
What you're speaking... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, my brother.
I was going to say that you raised a very important point, an extremely important point. Earlier today, downtown here in Philadelphia, I was doing a presentation to a group of African-American tutors. They go into the schools around Philadelphia, and they work with our kindergarten to third grade children. And they asked me, how do we get these children's attention? We're trying to help them, but they're not paying attention. They don't seem like they want to be bothered. I said, because there can be no imparting of knowledge, wisdom, or understanding to a youth if you haven't first made that knowledge, wisdom, or understanding relevant in the youth's life. Children don't learn unless they understand the obvious necessity of what they're being taught. It's the same thing as it relates to African consciousness. It's the exact same thing. Our children are trying to find a way to connect the dots from the great past that we're teaching them to their present and on to the future. What you just hit on, my brother, is one of the biggest contradictions in black consciousness. Our whole focus is on what we used to be. 95% of our scholars are dealing with what we used to be. Who in the hell is dealing with our problems now? And who is dealing with what we're trying to become in the next 5,000 years? Our total scholarship, almost exclusively, is focused on the past. With the exception of a few people like Dr. Claude Anderson, myself, and others, we're dealing with the present and we're dealing with the future. But if you look at most of our scholars, they have a past tense orientation. So when you come to the child with a past tense orientation, they need to know their history. But guess what? If all you're going to teach them every day, all day, is their history, and you're not going to talk to them about mass incarceration and try to do something about it, you're not going to talk to them about unemployment and try to do something about it, you're not going to talk to them about community violence and try to do something about it, you're not going to talk to them about male-female relationships or homosexuality or child molestation and do something about it. If you're only coming here to tell me what used to go on without coming here with some solutions for what we can do right now, and more importantly, how we can project ourselves successfully into the future, ultimately, your history, no matter how valuable it is, sooner or later is going to become irrelevant to them. In other words, it's like when someone shows up on your doorstep and they want to sell you something. When you open up that door, they know they got about 2 minutes to grab your attention. 2 minutes. If they do not show the relevance of that vacuum cleaner, if they do not show the relevance of that set of steak knives, if they do not show the relevance of why you need to get some cable television in your life within 120 seconds, you're going to tell them, excuse me, and you're going to shut the door. People are always looking for how this benefits me. And when we get their attention, we got to be able to give them something after we get their attention, because if we don't, they're going to drop back into the abysmal sea of unconsciousness. And our problem with the political struggle, the revolutionary struggle, the conscious community, is what we really are doing is we're replicating church. We're having church. We have black conscious church. It's no different than going to Catholic Mass on Saturday. It's no different than going to Juma prayer Friday afternoon. It's no different than going to the church on Sunday morning, because it is church. We have the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey. We have Blueprint for Black Power. Okay, we have Dr. Ben's books. We got all these books. That's the Bible. Then you got all the lecturers and all the scholars. They ain't nothing but preachers and pastors. You follow?
Yeah.
Where's the action? We're no different than church. So the children are running away from church, they're running away from the mosque, and they're running away from black consciousness. Because they'll tell you in a minute, the only thing I see different between you guys and those guys is that you're dealing with history and they're dealing with religion. That's the only difference we're seeing. They ain't got no jobs for us. Y'all ain't got no jobs for us. They ain't got a program for mass incarceration. Y'all ain't got a program for mass incarceration. At the end of the day, you and the pastor are one in the same. Both of y'all do the same thing. Talk about history. Let's look at a pastor or imam. What it is, their whole sermon, the whole khutbah is based on the Bible or the Quran, a history book. So when they talk about Jesus, Abraham, Muhammad, they're talking about history. They're teaching history. And although we know a lot of that stuff is not true, it's still from a historical perspective. So what the average African youth is trying to figure out is, why is you bringing me more history when all I'm getting is a history lesson on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? I would at least expect that when I'm dealing with the black conscious people, after they give me a history lesson, they're going to give me a discussion in contemporary issues so we can deal with how we're going to deal with our situation in front of us.
Basically, you're talking about then, and I'm talking about my life right now.
Thank you.
That's the standpoint that they're coming from, and that is the thing. I'm not going to say on a daily basis, because I don't go to see my brothers and sisters. I do have 4 children of my own, but I don't go to see my younger brothers and sisters on a daily basis. But that's the thing I'm always confronted with is, okay, what do I do right now? How can this help me right now? And that is a solution that I've had to try to help them figure out right now. And my thing is this: if I can show you how to have some hope despite whatever white man or whatever the hell you've been told by whoever, I don't want you to be concerned about a white man. I want you to be concerned about what you're doing. I'm concerned about, what are your goals? What are your dreams, your goals, the things that you want to accomplish? Forget all that other crap. What is it you want to do? Let's deal with that first. And if somehow we can deal with that, then from there, I can try to help you navigate all the other little, bullshit and crap that you may run into based upon my own experience in my life. Because I try to come from the aspect, Dr. Umar and Brother Chills, that, look, I'm a man. No matter how young or how old, I'm a man. And if it's something I want to do, if it's something I'm passionate and serious enough about, then for me that means nobody else should matter, no matter what system I'm under. Because even if I fail, I know that I gave it everything that I had. And in giving it everything that I have, I tried to figure out how to solve that issue in as many ways as I possibly could. And that is how I try to deal with, my younger brothers and sisters out here, man. I don't like to, look, you come from this, you come from that, so forth and so on. Okay, yes, that's fine.
Yeah.
But that does not help in, okay, this is 2013. We're talking about 5, 6, hundreds of thousands of years ago. How's that helping me right now?
Yeah, I think that.
I hate to say it, they don't care. To a degree, yes. I mean, it may feel good on a fundamental level, but they don't care about that. Yeah. If it doesn't help them now, they don't care. And that's
nor can we blame them for that.
Yeah, exactly.
When you are at war,
exactly.
when you are in the middle of a war, you really don't have time to stop and do too much reading about stuff that ain't relevant to the war. In other words, this conversation is more about priorities than it is about anything else. It's more about priorities. Right now in 2013, in the situation that we are in, what should be our priorities? Okay, we have institution building on the table. We got spirituality on the table. We got historical study on the table. Okay, we got all types of things on the table. What should be the priority? And when you look at priorities, especially for people who are under siege, reading books about what you used to be 5,000 years ago is not a priority. Our children are looking for food, clothing, and shelter and protection. One of the reasons why Mr. Garvey with his Universal Negro Improvement Association, or Mr. Muhammad with his Nation of Islam, or Noble Drew with his Moorish Science Temples of America, or even if you look at the Black Hebrews or the Black Panther Party of yesterday, you'll see with all of them, they met the young people's needs as a prerequisite to getting their attention. When you walk up to a young person who's under siege, the first thing they're waiting to hear from you is what is going to come out this brother's mouth that can help me. And if all we can tell them is that they need to study their history when they facing 5 to 10 years in prison, that ain't got nothing to do with where they going right now. If a brother ain't got a place to sleep at night and all you can give him is some consciousness, he's going to tell you to keep it. We got to get our priorities in order and stop ignoring the obvious. See, the problem is we're living in denial. People are walking around saying, why don't the young people want to study their history? Why don't the young people want to come to study group? Why don't the young people want to do this and find out about? Because they have more important things going on in their life right now, and what you're bringing them does not in any way, shape, or form address their immediate issues. And then there's one other point I want to raise on that, good brothers, and that is this. When you give any type of, we want to call, I'm going to use, for lack of a better word, the religious term, evangelization. When you go out and you give, as the Muslims would say, a dawah to people, where you try to invite them to Islam, or you try to invite them to Christianity, or invite them to the Kingdom Hall, or even if you try to invite them to the Nation of Islam or the Garvey movement or any political religious order, your approach to recruitment has to be scientific. It has to be scientific. And I think one of our faults as a conscious community, whatever that means, is that we don't have a scientific approach to recruiting our youth into the fold. We simply want them to listen to us because we're giving them the truth. That's not enough anymore. You must be scientific. Look at the Jehovah's Witnesses. They are scientific. They have a protocol for bringing new people in that is almost failure-proof because they have the best recruiting process in the world. We need the same type of thing, a scientific recruiting process. But on top of that, I want to say this. We got to be careful how we invite our youth to consciousness. What I'm saying is I've seen brothers and sisters attempt to invite youth to consciousness, and instead they turned them off of the consciousness because they were not either, number one, able to answer the questions that the youth put forward. Let's understand something. A lot of these brothers and sisters out here doing the wrong thing are extremely intelligent. They ain't got no damn common sense, but they extremely intelligent. If you're going to come to one of them with some black consciousness, assuming that they don't know a little bit on their own, you might get yourself embarrassed in front of a bunch of children because all of them are not politically uneducated. That's rule number one. Make sure you know what you claim you know, or you'll have to get embarrassed by a 12 or 13-year-old. I've seen it happen to people before. So, number one, we got to stop assuming that they don't know anything. That's number one. You got to be able to answer their questions, or they're going to lose faith in you. Think about it now. You standing around 10 brothers, 15, 16, 17 years old. One of them is beginning to debate you on your position. The others are listening because they don't know which way to go, so they want to listen to see who wins out.
Right, but they're rolling with the dude.
He was incorrect,
but
guess what?
Right.
His insight was deeper than yours. So he was able to make all them youth doubt the truth that you brought. As a result, they never considered looking at black consciousness ever again because you lost a conversation with somebody young enough to be your son. So we got to make sure we can answer their questions. Number two, we got to be able to deal with their disrespectful reactions without turning them off. If you a thin-skinned brother, if you got an ego that you can't control, if you're one of those people who think that the youth should never get disrespectful, even though they shouldn't, they're going to because they don't really have a reason to respect us anymore because we don't do anything for them. You got to be able to control your temper because they are going to try you. Some of them are going to get outright disrespect. That's number two. And number three, the most important thing is you have to make sure you do not sell them a pessimistic view of the future. Because if you sell the youth a pessimistic view of the future, do you know what you just done? You just made them give up on their damn self. And some of us, when we teach white supremacy, we don't do it in a way that lets the youth know that even though they're doing this to our people, we can overcome this bullshit. Some of us don't do that. Some of us teach white supremacy and all this other stuff in such a way that it makes the youth throw up their hands and say, so why should I even bother going to school? Why should I even bother getting my diploma? Why should I even bother stop selling drugs? Why should I even bother stop smoking weed all day? Why should I even bother stop chasing all these girls? We got to be careful that when we teach them the reality of our racial situation, that we do it with a motivational energy so at the end of the conversation, they are enthusiastic about making some change in their life and in their community. But a lot of us do it in a pessimistic way. So by the time we're done with the youth conversation, we'd have made them give up on their whole life.
Right. Yeah. I think many organizations do the same thing. I think they kind of overload young people. I've seen it in organizations where, they'll bring young people in and then they'll, like almost drop a load right in their lap, and pretty much it's like almost like they don't make it something that they will be interested in, and sometimes they use just like you said about people having egos, and they kind of look down on these young people just because they're not knowledgeable, or when they come in, or they think they're not knowledgeable. So then they turn those young people off, and that should be our goal: is to get down in the dirt, in the mud, and pull these young people in. Because they're the ones that's going to be doing the work in the future. So, I think that's something that is going on in our organizations and sometimes in our schools. I think a lot of our scholars kind of shut down young people for
they do.
For silly reasons.
I've seen it time and time again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, the one thing, all I wanted to say is that, again, for me, there's a difference between understanding what's going on out here in the world and society itself, and between that and I'm not going to give anyone that much power over me to the point where it dictates how I respond or go about doing the things that I want to do in my life. I'm never going to give, an elitist or a white man, however you want to put it, that much power over my life. I remember when I was in my very early 20s, my whole thing is I wanted to design and build a car from the ground up. And I would hear from just about every direction out here in the world, not my family, out here in the world, oh, that's not possible, you can't do this, you can't do that, da-da-da-da-da. Have I accomplished it yet? No. But I know that I can. But I would hear, oh, no, that's not possible, this, that, no. Why not? And not once did I ever get a logical answer. Not one time did I ever get an answer that made any sense to me whatsoever. How come I can't? So again, I'm never, ever, ever, and this is something I got from my grandmother, bless her soul, going to give anybody that much power over me in my life. And that is one thing that I try to carry over in whoever, my younger brothers and sisters that I deal with, that I talk to. That's one thing I try to give to them.
Yeah.
You know, it may be a little messed up out here, but guess what?
Don't always have a chance. Don't ever give up.
Give up. You know what I mean?
But you know, that's the hypocritical energy amongst those of us who claim to be conscious. It's a very big hypocritical energy out there, because what happens is I see a lot of people talk about all this consciousness and information, but then at the end of their statement, they're talking about how the white man ain't going to let us do this or that.
Right.
Well,
exactly.
If you don't believe it's possible for us to overcome white supremacy, why in the hell are you teaching people about it?
Right.
If you don't think it's possible, why are you considering yourself a revolutionary? If you don't think it's possible, then you are a hypocrite. The only people who should be talking about and teaching about history, culture, political awareness, racial consciousness are those who believe it's possible to change our situation. If you don't believe it's possible, no matter how much information you know, it is best you keep your mouth shut, because sooner or later, your self-defeatist attitude is going to infect the children who you're interacting with. And we got to be very careful about that, because I'm constantly running across so-called revolutionaries, male and female, young and old, who got all this knowledge, and then when you have a conversation about critical analysis and what we can do as a people to overcome the situation, it ain't going to happen. That's never going to happen. We ain't never getting out of it. Well, if you believe that, brother, what the hell are you here for? This ain't for people who don't think it's possible. This is for people who believe and know it's possible. So, and then you got to consider this. If we are telling our youth that after teaching them about all this information, that it's not possible to overcome their situation and that they should just give up, ain't that the same lesson they're getting from white supremacy every day? Doesn't white supremacy teach black folk every day? Stop trying to overcome what I'm doing to you. I am God. I am your master. I am your sovereign Lord. You don't fight against me. You accept what I do, or else. If we're going to teach our children the same message as white supremacy, then that means black consciousness just became the agent of white supremacy.
Thank you.
Now, here's the thing. Like, I know that you know a lot about organization. Have you ever considered creating an organization similar to some of the ones? Well, not similar to some of the ones nowadays, but have you ever given thought to it?
Oh, yes, sir. In fact, I started an organization that I had kind of left alone for a while because of the intensity of my public speaking career, and that is the Team Pan-African movement, the international movement for the independence and protection of African people, which I started on Kwame Nkrumah's Earth Day, September the 21st, 2005, after I took my first trip to the continent. So I came back. I was motivated. There wasn't much going on with the UNIA in Philadelphia, so I left that alone. And then I started the Team Pan-African movement, and we're reorganizing now. We just had our first meeting of the minds in Fort Lauderdale this last month, and our next one is next month, March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. We're going to be in Detroit, Michigan. And for everybody who's on the line, you're more than welcome to come to Team Pan-African's Meeting of the Minds. The Meeting of the Minds is a concept I came up with because I got sick and tired of the lecture model. And people would say, well, if you're sick and tired of the lecture model of conscious raising and organizing, why you still lecture so much? I mean, you're like the most requested person out there. Well, the reason I still lecture is because my information is relevant. And I'm talking about more than history. You know, when I give my speeches, I'm giving people information they can use to help their children and help themselves. I'm lifting depression. I'm keeping kids out of jail. So I'm going to continue to lecture because it's relevant. I think if your message is relevant, then I think you should continue to talk. But if all you have is a message about what happened a couple thousand years ago, I don't necessarily see that as relevant. I don't. because I'm an action-based person and I live in the present and the future, you know, as long as I have information to give our people that's about the present and the future, and more importantly about things they can do about the present and the future right now when they leave this lecture, I'm going to continue to speak, okay, because there's no one else teaching the information that I'm teaching from the same perspective and energy. So I have to continue. But because I think the black community has lost the energy we once had of dialogue and organization, I came up with the meeting of the minds concept for black people to come and talk. No lecture.
Yeah.
When you come to the meeting of the minds, we are in a big circle and we talk about male-female relationships. We talk about why black organizations can't get along and why black folk can't get along. We talk about male-female relationships, the economy, agricultural science, building schools for our children. So if there's anyone who got thoughts and ideas that they want to express to the collective, then you might want to consider coming out to Detroit March 1st and 2nd. It's going to be at the Aisha Shule, which is the W.E.B. Du Bois Preparatory Academy in Detroit. Registration is free. All you have to do is go to eventbrite.com. Eventbrite.com, type in Meeting of the Minds, and you register. We have it set at 300 persons. Only 300 will be allowed to register, and you must be registered to attend, but it doesn't cost you a penny. Okay, so the next one is March 1st and 2nd. We're also going to have a bowling party Friday night. We're going to have a little social at the nightclub Saturday for folks who like to hear some music and just sit down and talk and eat a little bit. And Sunday we're going to go to the African American Museum in Detroit, which is one of the world's largest collections of our historical artifacts. So, again, March 1st and 2nd, eventbrite.com, Meeting of the Minds. Our next one is going to be in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Good brother Dante is going to be hosting that, and that's going to be Malcolm X Weekend, May 17th, 18th, and 19th. Malcolm X Weekend, Virginia Beach, Virginia. And then the fourth one is going to be in July in Chicago. And then the fifth one is going to be down in Dallas, Texas.
Wow.
And the sixth one, we're going to end the year here in Philadelphia in November. Every other month, they are free. You don't have to pay to register. All you have to do is show up and participate in that dialogue. The first one was beautiful, brothers. It was beautiful. So I'm looking forward to Detroit,
wow.
Virginia, and so forth and so on.
Y'all got to excuse me on this because I am in Detroit. Are you based here, or is this
I'm based in
coming up
Philadelphia.
event? Okay.
Yes.
But you have an event coming up at the beginning of next month.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
March
sir.
1st and 2nd. And if you're on Facebook, you could go to my Facebook public page. My personal page, Umar Abdullah Johnson, is maxed out, so I can't accept any more friends. But my public page, and I put everything that go on my personal page to go on the public page, so you don't miss nothing. The public page is Dr. Umar Ifa Tunde. Ifa Tunde, that's my Yoruba name, and it's spelled I-F-A-T-U-N-D-E. I-F-A, Ifa. I-F-A-T-U-N-D-E. Go ahead and like that page on Facebook. I'll post everything on that page. In fact, it goes there before it even goes to the website. You know, so definitely go to the Ifa Tunde page. And the registration information is up there. The flyer is up there. Saturday night, we're going to do a lecture after the Meeting of the Minds on Saturday, and I'm going to have a book signing as well before we go ahead and head out to the restaurant for the social. So it's going to be a nice weekend, real nice weekend.
Yeah. I should be here, but I'm looking to link up with you then.
Okay. In fact, my brother, when we're done, text my phone, and I'm going to text you the flyer. So when we're done tonight, just text this for anybody on the phone. Anyone who needs that flyer for the Meeting of the Minds, you can just text me for it, and I'll send it right to your phone. You could email and be a little bit more difficult from the phone, but I could text you the flyer. Definitely text you the flyer from the phone, and it's also available on Facebook. And my phone number, for those who need it, area code 215-989-9858, area code 215-989-9858. I also wanted to let the listeners know, too, I've been getting a lot of emails and telephone calls from parents regarding psychoeducational issues with their children, special ed, ADHD stuff. They're leaving me voicemails. And on my voicemail, I made it clear that you must send me an email. So I need the parents out there to know that I don't return calls for consultations because I get too many. If I returned all the calls, I wouldn't have time to do anything else. I need you to email your problem to me. Email. If you absolutely must have a phone call, then you go to my website, and I have a consultation fee that I charge of $50 for telephone consultation. That's 1 hour. You can fax me your paperwork. We will go through the evaluation. We will go through the IEP. I will help you draft a letter to the school, to the judge, whoever the letter is for, and I will take you through your whole process for a small fee of $50. But if you just call me and leave me a voicemail, I don't have time to call you back. So I'm requesting that parents email me, because if you email me, you don't have to pay me anything. If we communicate via email, I will give you free help all day long by way of email communication. But if I got to take an hour out of my busy schedule to work with you one-on-one, then you got to pay a small fee for that. So I just want to make sure everyone's clear, because parents said, I left you a voicemail. You know how many voicemails I get? My voice box is full right now. Don't wait on me to call you back. Now, a lot of the bourgeois scholars, you know what they do. You don't even have a phone number. You can't even reach them. You know what I mean? I let people have my phone number because I'm a regular dude. You know what I mean? I'm Brother Umar, more so than Dr. Umar, so I'm never going to be somebody who's going to cut the umbilical cord to my community. I always want people to be able to text me. I always want people to call me all the time. They say, I can't believe you answered your phone. Is this actually you? I'm like, yeah, I don't have no go-between. You know what I mean? If you call me, I'm going to pick up. I'm not a superstar, and I do not treat my work as celebrity work. I'm not a football player. I'm not a rapper. I'm not an actor. I'm not a basketball player, okay? I'm a brother out here who's trying to improve the condition for his people. So I'm not into no celebrity status, no limousines or none of that bull crap, okay? You just call me up and we get it done. That's how I rock.
No doubt, no doubt. We're going to take a real quick break, and we'll come back with more show. We'll come back. There's a caller online. We'll take a caller when we come back. This is Destroy and Rebuild Radio.
Historically, revolutions are bloody. Oh yes, they are. They have never had a bloodless revolution or a non-violent revolution. That don't happen even in Hollywood. You don't have a revolution in which you love your enemy. And you don't have a revolution in which you are begging the system of exploitation to integrate you into it. Revolutions overturn systems. Revolutions destroy systems. A revolution is bloody. Bloody. Bloody.
Open your mind. The revolution is now. You are listening to Destroy and Rebuild.
Welcome back to the show. The call-in number is 1-347-994-2959. State your name, what you represent. Caller number 1, state your name and what you represent. 267 number.
Right, that's how I identify people on the radio.
Peace. All right, we'll come back to him. Caller number 2, state your name and what you represent. 313.
Hotep, can you brothers hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Hotep, this is Michael M. Hotep from Team Pan-African Meeting of the Minds in Detroit. Hotep, Dr. Umar, how you doing, brother?
Peace and love, brother Mike. Peace and love.
All right. So, interesting conversation tonight. Dr. Umar always brings it and keeps it real. And what's going on in Detroit, March 1st and 2nd and 3rd, as he was telling you about, it's going to be fantastic. So we're really dealing with things relevant to the people today. When we deal with history, we have to make it relevant and then tell them what the next step is. What do we do in the present? What do we do in the future? So that's what's going to be going on in Detroit, March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So we hope everybody, checks that out, comes to it. Everybody's going to learn a lot, and they'll walk away with some marching orders also.
No doubt.
Did one of your brothers say that you're in Detroit?
No, I'm based in Philadelphia. My co-pilot, Brother Cass, he's based in Detroit.
Yeah, chill. This is my brother from another mother, man.
Okay.
We're trying to get to a higher level with it, but we doing everything that we can now. So he ain't far. He's only a few hours. If I have to go drive and pick him up, bring him back here, that's what's going to have to happen.
Okay, that's what we have to do, man. That's what we have to do, because if we were going to see Lil Wayne or Nicki Minaj, we'd go pick people up and carpool.
Oh, man.
So we have to do the same thing for this.
Right. He going to have to chip in on the gas, though.
Exactly. Well, look, I don't want to hold you all up. I just want to come in. I just want to call in and, thank you all for having Dr. Umar on and talking about this subject matter. And let you go ahead and take some more callers, okay?
Oh, no doubt. Thank you for calling in,
brother Mike. Appreciate that, y'all. Brother Michael Imhotep is hosting Meeting of the Minds #2 in Detroit. Make sure y'all get that registration on eventbrite.com. Meeting of the Minds.
Yes, no doubt. Thank you, brother, for calling in. Yeah.
No problem. Peace.
All right. Caller number 2, station 3. I'm sorry, 609 number.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just calling in for this brother Omar, talking to brother Umar. Just complimenting the brother. I've been listening to you for the past couple years. And just sending my blessings with you, man. You've been helping me out a lot. You're definitely the king of this community, man, right now. I'm looking up to you, man. There's a lot of other guys out here that is talking, but they're not doing. I actually see you doing, man. Just complimenting you. That's all, man.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate the love, man. Really, really do. Appreciate that love.
Definitely. It's your brother from New Jersey, man. Keep going. Talk to you later.
All right. Give thanks. I'm going to be up in Patterson, New Jersey soon. There's a scholarship dinner up there that's going to be open to the community, I believe, up in Patterson in about, I think it's like the 26th of February, though. But you could text me for that info if you're interested on that.
Okay, yeah, I seen you in Camden, I think, last year at one time. I'm in South Jersey, so. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, indeed. I'm always over in Camden. I do work with the Camden Youth Bill. I do work with them. Work with young people in that program. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, man. Take it easy.
All right, now. Be blessed.
All right.
Peace, Brother Umar. Thanks for calling in, too. All right.
Ballers, bro.
Yeah, we do have one more. Let me see let's see if he's ready. Caller number 4. State your name, what you represent. 267.
Okay, hey, can you hear me, Brother Chills?
Yes, I can. What's going on?
Oh, great. Right. So 7374, that's the way I do it. I can't tell from the first 3.
Oh, hey. Man, this is a voice blast from the past.
Yeah, man. I got y'all piped into my radio program, but I got Baba Yumi Odemore, so you are in my chat room, and I'm over in my chat room so I can talk to you. And I was listening to Dr. Umar Johnson, see how I did that? You know what I'm saying? All that from way back before we started doing all of that. Mm-hmm. But, we do what we do. Now, I was listening, and I heard any number of things, so let's quickly get to the point. One, I want to invite you to Only in America, February 17th at the Shanghai Cultural Center. The program starts at 2 o'clock, going to run till 9 o'clock, and I'm looking for everybody to come out. We're looking to build. And, of course, we've invited you to the Shanghai Cultural Center, and I was at the last talk that you had with the New African Republic. So, we are everywhere, the contractors who are looking for the youth to come so that we can teach to build. We have to create our own jobs. That's one of the angles that you push. I like our historical information for 5 minutes. I hear people make the statement, what are you going to do with history? But I see that as our cultural foundation. And then when I hear people say, well, what is culture? What is our culture? I know that we have missed the mark totally. I was talking to Brother Yumi on his program, which is my program, that you have 2 generations who have not received the information. And we're not ready for the information of the past, nor are we ready for the information of the future, because we're not defining who we are. We're still living by somebody else's definition. So these are the points and topics that I would like to bring up, and I certainly want to invite you over to Legacy of a Nation, Brother Umar, so that we can hold in-depth